Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to do my best to answer the question of how much does it cost to play Illuvium. We don't have 100% concrete answers yet, but I wanted to go through what roughly we're estimating it will cost. I did have an interview with Kieran a few days ago where we did talk about it. I'll probably leave that clip at the end of the video, but I wanted to cover some fundamentals and then talk about it. So the key things we're going to look at is the Illuvium token. Do you need it? NFTs that are available for purchase, the free-to-play side of things, the travel and shards, which are going to be the main costs, but then also incorporate things like how much energy you have and what else you can do with that energy to recoup some costs while you are playing. So the first thing is Illuvium. I do see in the Illuvium Discord a lot of questions saying like, how much ILV do I have to play the game? Now you can purchase ILV tokens and stake them to earn SILV, which is in-game credit essentially, to be able to play with, but you don't have to buy ILV to do it. It's more of an investment side of the game. You don't have to have any ILV to play. The second thing is the NFTs that people see on OpenSea and stuff like that. There will be no NFT pre-sales that give you a competitive advantage in the game. We do have obviously land sale coming up, which is more of a revenue distribution type thing. It won't give you a competitive edge inside the game. We do have the other NFTs on OpenSea, things like badges and emotes, which are going to be things that you will get access to in the game, but they're just cosmetic, so they don't actually give you that competitive advantage. And then we have other things like collaboration NFTs and stuff like that, which are purely collectibles. You don't have to buy any NFTs. There is no NFT that you can buy before the game releases that is going to give you an advantage. Now, when the game does release, there will be a free-to-play version, which is going to be with Tier 0 alluvials. Now, Tier 0 alluvials aren't going to be as flashy and advanced as Tier 1 through 5. There's going to be basically 25 basic Tier 0 alluvials. There'll be 5 different monsters, each representing a class, and then those 5 monsters will have 5 different colorations, we'll call them, to represent a different affinity or element, if that's what you're more familiar with. So for instance, Doka is going to be the fighter type at Tier 0, and he will have a fire. There will be a fire type Doka, a water type, a wind type, an earth type, and a nature type. So Doka will have 5 different element versions of himself to make up a different element version of each of the class of fighter, and then there will be the same for the other 4 classes. Now past that, if you want to get into the paid areas where you start getting Tier 1 through Tier 5 alluvials, this is where I want to take a minute to talk about travel and shards. Now, Tier 0 travel and shards is free, and that's how you're going to go ahead and capture those Tier 0 alluvials. But when we start looking at Tier 1 and beyond, travel is basically a fee that you pay to go to one of the areas and be able to capture alluvials there. Then shards are essentially your Pokeballs, which you're going to have to buy to go ahead and capture things. Now, energy is another thing that I want to talk about briefly because it could get confusing on, thinking you have to buy more shards than you really do. So energy, when you travel, you will have an energy limit. Now, I'm going to keep it very basic. Catching an alluvial will use energy. You will also have things like minerals that you can mine and plants that you can pick out there in the world, which also use energy. Now, those things are going to be NFTs as well, which you can sell on. So keep that in mind. The 2 main things for capturing an alluvial is the travel and shards. However, with that energy that you have on your travel, you can, mine minerals and pick plants. The reason I bring that in is when you pay for a travel, say you can only afford 1 shard, then you can still mine with the rest of that travel fee and then sell whatever you've mined to make more money back to put towards your next travel. Because you don't want to get into the situation where if you want to travel, you have to essentially buy, say, 5 shards to make it worth it. Now that that basic concept is out of the way, what will it cost? Now, I did have my interview with Kieran a couple of days ago and we spoke about it, and his original sort of guesstimation was always that it would be like roughly $10 for a travel and then about $10 for a shard. Now, that's a very basic don't quote any of this. They're still working on it. They're still working with economists and stuff like that. And why I mentioned the stuff about minerals and stuff, when you look at $10 for a travel and $10 for a shard, that's your $20 to catch an alluvial, but you may recoup some of that money on that travel if you can only catch the one alluvial and then use the rest of your energy to, say, mine some more shards, which you can either sell or use to catch alluvials on the next travel that you pay for. So there's different ways you can go about it, but essentially that estimate would leave it at around $20 if you wanted to catch one alluvial. Now, Kieran did say that his economists have been like theorizing on different ways that maybe you go more microtransactions and you say do like $2 to $3 for a travel and $2 to $3 for a shard, which would make it much, much cheaper. And to me, this is a very uneducated opinion, is it's a very tough balance to strike, and I don't have the answer. Whatever they come up with is what we're going to have to play by. But it's an interesting one because to me, you got two types of players in the game. Players who will pay to play the game because all this travel and, you know, capturing alluvials will take a lot of time. And then there's the competitive PvP scene of the game that there will be, which a lot of players may want to get into that side of things. They don't have the time to put into, you know, capturing the alluvials. So they might want to just buy the alluvials so they can just focus on the PvP side of things. And I think Illuvium will cater to a lot of those players. And then you'll have the earning side, which will be more of the scholarship side of the game to do with guilds and stuff like that, where a lot of players will be just day in, day out, going out, capturing alluvials and selling them. And that is that earning side of it. Now, there will be definitely players like myself who will enjoy capturing alluvials, but also battling them in PvP. So I think it'll have a good mix. Now, there's two ways to look at this economy, and that is if you make prices too cheap, and I don't know, once again, what the balance price is, but if you make it too cheap, then there's less valuable, your assets are less valuable, the game makes less profit, which means there's less revenue distribution to the stakeholders, which has that impact. Also, on top of that, if the prices are too low and it's taking you, say, an hour to capture a couple of alluvials and you're not actually making that much money, then the earners won't want to play as much. However, if you make it too expensive, then you have high revenue distribution, you have high earning per alluvial that you catch. However, if it's too expensive, then the people who want to just pay to play and they're buying those alluvials to compete in PvP may not come into the ecosystem because it seems too expensive, and then you collapse your ecosystem that way. So I don't know what's too cheap. I don't know what's too expensive, but I'm really curious to see how it pans out. Let me know your guys' ideas on what you think is like a good price range, because like I said, I'm not an economist. I don't know how to map these things out and know exactly what it's going to be, but I'm curious to see your guys' thoughts on what you think it'll be. Anyway, I will throw that little clip of me chatting to Kieran at the end here, but as always, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers. I'm just curious on a player coming in, say they want to just pay for a travel, queue a couple shards and go catch some alluvials. What will that cost them? Like, what's a travel?
Yeah, well, I've always been saying, and I think I've even said it to you before, I've always been saying, just as a general rule, $10, right? $10 for your basic region, and then $10 for your basic shard, as in a tier 1 shard, and just been working off that logic. The economist, however, is way more, thinks that we need to go down a route of more micro transactions rather than, like, I'm talking like $2, $3 to travel, and
then more expensive on the shards.
No,
or
same.
Cheaper.
Like just reducing how much we charge for each thing, right? Just making it a lot cheaper to get around, to capture, whatever.